Okay, so welcome back, my dear students. This is the third part of solid states, and this will be the last part. We are going to end our chapter with this part, and starting with the further topic, imperfections in solid. Now, what do you mean by imperfections? Imperfections mean solids are not perfect. Okay, so let me start from here. Okay, it's not loading. Sorry for the wait. Okay, so before that, let me tell you that take your book and pen, and so that you can write down the notes, which is the easiest form, and you can write it during the exam time, and also it will be very helpful for your learning. Okay, so starting again, imperfections and solid. So, what do you mean by imperfections? Imperfections means that solids are not perfect. Obviously, imperfection we know the meaning of imperfection. So even solids are not perfect. They have small, they have mostly small crystals, and small crystals have defect in them. So there are small crystals in them, but and these small crystals they have defects. Okay, now why do this defect happen? So what is the reason? That it usually happens when crystallization rate is fast or moderate. Okay, so if you are making solid into a crystalline form, and you are heating it very fast, so then there occurs imperfections in solid, or there you can see that a defect is occurred. Same way, if you're heating it in a moderate form, then also there will be a defect in them. So you need to heat it really on a slow basis. But still, I would say that there is hardly any perfect solid. Okay, so that is the reason that why does defect happen. That it is because the crystallization rate is fast or moderate. Okay, slow crystallization rate leads to single crystals even they have defect. See, just now I told you that even though, like, we have already used the term fast and moderate, and now what is left? Slow. So even if you are crystallizing it on a slow rate, what will happen? They will have a defect. Okay, so there is no such thing that from which you can create a perfect solid, and that is the reason we are studying about it here. Okay, now the next thing is that defects means irregularities in the arrangement of particles. Now what do you mean by defect? We know the meaning of defect, but what exactly the defect in solid means? So defect means there is irregularities in the arrangement, means this is the arrangement of solid, we know that. Okay, it is arranged in a proper form, but if we find that there are some type of irregularities present here, then we consider it as a defective solid. Okay, so now there are two types of defects, like imperfections in solids are defects. Like, you can say defects are classified into two types: point defect and line defect. Okay, what do you mean by point defect? Irregularities or deviations from ideal arrangement around a point or an atom. So if you're having any kind of irregularity, from here you can see that we will be studying about the types of irregularities further. But if suppose, like, in short, remember that if suppose there are few irregularities, means the pattern is not regular, and there are deviations, means it is deviating from its original position, so you will find that irregularities are there, and that type of defect is known as point defect. And exactly, point means what? At It means that it is found only at that particular atom. Okay, means only a particular atom is showing a defect, so that is known as a point defect. Now here, line defect, from the name itself, sorry, from the name itself you can understand that line means the entire defect is found in the line. Okay, like, this is the line, this is 0, so the entire defect is found here, so that is known as line defect. And here you can see various type of defects about which we are going to study. So this is the type of effects. we will be studying it here. Now line defect is further classified into, the first one is stoichiometric defects, then the second one is impurity defect, okay, and the third one is non-stoichiometric defect, okay. Now the first one, so there are three types: stoichiometric defect, irregularities or deviations, same definition, only the difference is here the defect is in the entire row, while it was only at a point in this type of defect. So the first classification of line defect we are going to study is stoichiometric defects. Okay, what is stoichiometric defect? Stoichiometric defects are, do not disturb the point effects of solid, also known as intrinsic or thermodynamic defects. Okay, it does not disturb the point effects, and it is known as intrinsic. Intrinsic means inside, or thermodynamic defects. So there are two types of defects, further two types of stoichiometric defect. One is vacancy defect and one is interstitial defect. Now first let me ask you that do you know the meaning of stoichiometry? Stoichiometry we have studied in 11th standard, and it should be clear to you till now that what it is meant by stoichiometry. Okay, so stoichiometry is calculation of reactants and products in a chemical reaction. So when we calculate the amount of reactant and product in a chemical reaction, that is known as stoichiometric defect. So that is known as stoichiometry, and if that type of defect is found, so it is known as stoichiometric defect. So the first type is vacancy defect, and the second type is interstitial defect. Interstitial means what? It is within but not at a particular site. Means interstitial means it is inside, within, but you can't say that it is at a particular position only. It might be anywhere, but it is inside. Okay, coming back to the vacancy defect. Now what is vacancy defect? When some of the lattice sites are vacant. So here these are the sites we already have studied about the what is lattice point, what is lattice sites. So the same thing, if when vacancy means what? Vacant, okay, it is empty. So if some of the sites are empty, it is known as vacancy defect. From here you can see, look at the diagram here, this side is empty, means there is no atom present here, means it is known as vacancy defect. The second point is, it decreases the density of the substance. Obviously when any atom is absent from a particular structure, like there is a loss of atom, there are less atoms, then what will happen? The density will decrease. What is the formula for density? The formula for density is mass upon volume. So obviously the mass will decrease, so that's why the density will also decrease. So one of the reason for having low density is because it might have a vacancy defect. Then the third is, it develops when the substance is heated. Now when does this type of defect develops? So it develops when you are heating a substance. Okay, that is the reason for getting a vacancy defect. Second one is interstitial. See here also clearly you can see the example of vacancy defect. Now here one atom is absent, so it is vacancy, it is vacant. Interstitial defect, when some constituent particles or atom or molecule have defects at the interstitial site. Interstitial means it is inside but anywhere. Okay, it increases the density of the substance. Non-ionic solids show above defects, whereas ionic solids show Frenkel and Schottky defect. So these interstitial defects is particularly seen by non-ionic solids. Okay, means the solids which doesn't have ions. So and it increases the density of the substance. Means here what will happen, that an atom is added from here and there. So what will happen if we are adding it more, if atoms are being added more to the structure, then what will happen? The mass will increase, and that's why the density will also increase. So what is the difference between these two? Vacancy means what? There are less atom, and that's why the density is less, and that's why vacancy defect. Whereas here the atoms will become more, that's why there is increase in density of the substance. Now these effects, the effects which I was talking about, so non-ionic solids, okay, show above effect, whereas ionic solids show Frenkel and Schottky defect. Now what do you mean by Frenkel defect? Small ion cation, cation is always considered as small ion. Small ion is dislocated from its normal site to interstitial site. Means take any of the small ion. This is about the Frenkel defect. Okay, sorry, this is about a Frenkel defect. Okay, this diagram is about a Frenkel defect. Consider a small ion and it is dislocated from its normal side to any of the side. Like it is dislocated, as you can see that it got attached itself from to any to it got sorry it got attached itself to some other place. So that's why it is known as Frenkel defect. Then it creates a vacancy defect at its original location and interstitial defect at its new location. Now what do you mean by interstitial? I told you that there is addition of electron, addition of an atom, and vacancy means what? Empty. Okay, so what will happen? Imagine that from a place one atom goes away. Like consider that these two diagrams are joined and one atom leaves its place from here and it's joined here. So what will happen? Here vacancy defect occurred, whereas on this side interstitial defect occurred. Okay, so that's the meaning of this point, that it creates a vacancy defect at its original location. Now consider that this is the original location. Now here what happened? The place is empty, and that's why here vacancy defect happened, and whereas the atom from here is shifted to this place anywhere in between, so this is known as interstitial defect. Okay, this defect is also known as dislocation. Dislocation means what? It is not located at a particular place, it it is delocalized to any other place. Okay, so that's why dislocation defect. You should remember the name, whatever extra other name which comes, for example, like Frenkel defect is also known as dislocation defect. So you should remember these type of names, because in exam they may ask you about that, what do you mean by dislocation defect, and then you will think that we haven't studied about it, what is it. So to avoid all this, you should always know the second name. If there is a second name, then you should always know about the second name. Okay, so continuing, does not change the density of the solid. Now here the density doesn't change. Obviously I am giving you example of this entire solid. Okay, but just now what happened, that from one place the atom got removed and it got shifted to other place, but the density won't change now, because there are same number of atoms. If I would have added extra atom to it, then the density would have increased, or if I would have removed an atom from it, then the density would have decreased. But here nothing happened, it got shifted from one place to another. Okay, so that's why density doesn't change. Okay, for example, you are sitting in a classroom and there is one student whose place the teacher changed to other place, and the class is of 80 student, and but what will happen, it will remain 80 only. Why? Because the student just got shifted to other place, like to the other bench. It didn't went out of the class, or the other student didn't came inside the class. So if no one is entering or no one is leaving, means the density won't change. But if it is okay, if there is entrance or exit, then the density gets affected. So that was the example. Now the example of Frenkel defect is zinc sulfide and silver chloride. Okay, means this specially happens in large difference, when there is a large difference in size of ion. So means, for example, zinc is very large and sulfur is very small, or silver is very large and chlorine is very small. So when particularly these type of atoms are there where the difference is very large, like uh, the anion is very large and the cation is very small, so here Frankel defect occurs. See here, you can see. Okay, proceeding, the second type is Schottky defect. Now this is a Schottky defect. What is meant by Schottky defect? Here the number of missing cations and anions are equal. Okay, means, see, here it is a blue box, whereas here it is orange box. Means blue box means chlorine and orange box means sodium. So if one sodium goes away, so the same one chlorine goes away. Okay, so means there is equal number of anions and equal number of cations. So number of cations and anions are equal to maintain the electrical neutrality. Why this happens? Specially so that there is no disbalance created in them, and to maintain the neutral state, there is equal number of cations and anions. So if one leaves, the other also leaves. Okay, it decreases the density of the substance. And now here obviously what I told you, that if someone is leaving, so the density will decrease, and here we see that they are leaving, and not only one but two atoms. Okay, like one from anion also and one from cation also, so the density will decrease. Then the third point is number of such defect is quite important. Now this defect is very important to mention or to note down, because from this only the calculation gets affected, and also the amount of substance, if it is being produced in a lab or something, then it also gets decreased. So that's why there should be a noting that how much is this defect in the entire structure, like there are one defects of this type or two defect or three defect. Okay, then the example is sodium chloride or potassium chloride, and here the cations and anion size are equal. So this defect particularly occurs when cations and anion size are equal. So there might be a MCQ questions or fill in the blank types, that what type of defect occurs when cations and anion size are equal. So you should know that Schottky defect occurs in this, and what type of defect occurs when there is a large difference in the size of ion. So you should know that the answer is Frenkel defect, or there might not be given any option regarding Frenkel defect. Instead they would give you the option regarding dislocation defect, so you should know that. Okay, so the second type of impurity, the second type of defect is impurity defect. Now impurity defect, first was stoichiometric. This is under the classification of line defect. First was stoichiometric, second is impurity. Okay, stoichiometric is of two types, vacancy and interstitial. And interstitial is further of, sorry, okay, stoichiometric, yeah, and then Frenkel and Schottky. Okay, Frenkel and Schottky are particularly for ionic solids. The second type of defect is impurity defect. Now here some of the sites of sodium ions are occupied by strontium ion if sodium chloride containing little amount of strontium chloride. For example, you have taken sodium chloride salt, and in that what happens, you are adding little amount of strontium chloride, and then you are later on purifying it. But what happens that later on you find out that some of the place it is occupied by strontium atom. Some of the place in NaCl is occupied by strontium atom. Look here, this is the example. Now all the atom is of Na or Cl, but there is this single place where the strontium atom is occupied with. Okay, so this type means, consider this an impurity. Impurity doesn't mean that there is mud or dirt in it. It only means that if there is sodium chloride, and for example, like, what do you think, that there should only be Na and Cl, but instead of having Na and Cl you have some other atom as well, for example strontium, or consider any other example like silver, or like any other besides Na and Cl. So any other atom besides Na and Cl, becomes an impurity for that particular structure. So this type of defect is known as impurity defect. Each strontium replaces sodium ions. Now whatever be the number of strontium atom, it will replace all the sodium ions, okay, whereas the other sides remain vacant. So the other side will be vacant, it will replace, and if there is an empty side, it will be an empty side. The cationic vacancies are equal in number to that of strontium ions. So if you will count out the vacancy of cationic ions, it will be equal in number, okay, to strontium ions. Sorry, what happened? Okay, I'll have to start again. mm. Yeah. mm. Okay, so yeah, coming back to this, some of the sites, okay, whereas the other sites remain vacant, the cationic vacancies are equal in number to that of strontium ions. Now here the vacancies will be equal to the number of strontium ions, okay. So how much be the number of strontium ions, the vacancies will be that much number. See, here is the vacancy. Now here only one strontium ion is there, so the vacancy will also be 1, okay. And if suppose there are two strontium ion is there is an impurity here, then there will be two vacancy. Example of this is cadmium chloride CdCl2 and silver chloride AgCl. Coming to the third type of defect is non-stoichiometric defect. Okay, what do you mean by non-stoichiometric defect? It is the opposite of the first defect, stoichiometric. Now here a large number of stoichiometric inorganic solids are known which contains the constituent elements in non-stoichiometric ratio due to defects in the crystal structures. Means abhi you will know, like you will know about this further when you will study in detail. In short, what do you mean by non-stoichiometric defect? Here what happens that due to the defect in the crystal structures, like if there is a defect in the crystal structures, what happens that the constituent elements, like this non-stoichiometric ratio gets affected, okay. And just now we studied what do you mean by stoichiometry. It is the calculation of reactants and products in a chemical reaction, okay. So how much reactant is there, how much how much reactant is there and how much products are formed in a chemical reaction, that is known as stoichiometry. Means the calculation which we do, like one product gives you one reactant, the calculation exactly is known as stoichiometry. So here we are studying about non-stoichiometry. Non-stoichiometry is of defect is of further two types. Again, I am repeating this. What do you mean by non-stoichiometric defect? Means a large number of stoichiometric inorganic solids are known which contains the constituent elements in non-stoichiometric ratio. Okay, means stoichiometric inorganic solids uh, becomes uh, okay, turns out to have non-stoichiometric ratio just because of the defects in their crystal structures, okay. So what do you mean by non-stoichiometric defect? Means a stoichiometric solid becomes non-stoichiometric ratio turns out to have non-stoichiometric ratio just because of the defects in their crystals. Okay, so here it is of two types. The first one is metal excess defect, and okay, and the second one is metal deficiency defect. Here is the second one. Okay, so you guys just write here number 2. It got hidden by the diagram, okay. So this is the second one, metal deficiency defect. The first one is metal excess and the second one is deficiency. Okay, so here what do you mean by metal excess defect? Due to anionic vacancies. Now this type of defect happens due to anionic vacancies or due to the presence of extra cations at the interstitial sites. Means both anions and cations are responsible for this type of defect. Only the differences we will study, like how they are responsible. Now due to first, due to about due to anionic vacancies, alkali halides KCl and NaCl show these type of defect. So NaCl and KCl particularly, these type of atoms show these type of defect, anionic defects. When crystals of NaCl atoms are heated with vapors of sodium, then Cl minus ions diffuse and comes to the surface to form NaCl. Now imagine that you are heating crystals of sodium chloride, means you are heating salt, okay, and you are heating salts. You are not heating salt simply, you are heating salts with the vapors of sodium, means you are heating salt as well as you are heating salts in the presence of different sodium vapors, means there is another sodium vapors and there is sodium chloride, okay, which you are heating. Then from this what do you understand? That there is extra Na atoms, okay. Later on what happens, the Cl ions diffuses and comes to the surface to form NaCl. When Cl sees that there is Na present at the surface, what happens, it also comes to the surface to combine with that, to combine with this Na atom to form NaCl, okay. Did you understand? Means consider that there is NaCl, you are heating NaCl, means there is already NaCl bond, okay, and you are heating it in presence of extra Na atoms. There is extra Na atoms, okay. What will happen? The NaCl which you were already heating, it will break down and the Cl atom will come to the surface to combine with the other Na atoms which were present as vapors, okay. So okay, this was the meaning of this line. Further, this happens by loss or by loss of electron by sodium atoms to form sodium plus. Now what happens after this? That the sodium atom which gets combined with Cl, the vapor of the sodium which the new which get combines with the Cl, it loses electron, okay, to form Na plus, because of which this electron diffuse into the crystal at the anionic sites, okay. Just now what did I say? That there is already NaCl atom present, sorry, NaCl molecule present, and we are providing extra Na atom. What will happen? The NaCl will break and that Cl atom will come out and they will combine with the sodium atom which was present on the upper side, okay. So now when this Na is combining with the Cl, what will happen? The Na will lose a electron for combining with Cl, okay. When they are losing the electron, these electrons come back to the NaCl lattice and they will diffuse in the crystal at the ionic site. They will join the ionic sites. See, look at the diagram here. The electron gets entrapped into the crystal structure, okay. As a result, there is excess of Na atoms. Now because of this, what happens? That Na atoms becomes excess. Obviously from this only we can understand that the sodium atoms are more, okay. Anionic sites occupied by unpaired electron is known as F centers, given yellow color to the give yellow color to the crystals, okay. So this site is known as, also known as F center, okay. So any defect occurring due to anionic vacancies is known as F center, and this gives which color? Yellow color. Now why does yellow color happen? Color results because of excitation of electron when they absorb energy from lighting, okay. So you always remember that there are colors to some of the atoms or molecules. There are colors to some of the molecules. It is particularly because of the Electrons play a very important role. Like before we study that it plays an important role in the conduction of electricity. Now here also, for giving color to the molecule, electrons are only responsible. So how do they give color? They give color by exciting. Okay, like the electron, they leave its place and they get excited to higher place by absorbing energy. Like electron, if they absorb energy, they jump to the upper level of the chart. Okay, so this leads to color. Other example is LiCl is pink in color, lithium chloride, and KCl, potassium chloride, is violet in color. You might have seen potassium chloride in your laboratory, which is violet in color. The second type is due to presence of extra cations at interstitial sites. Now again, what do you mean by interstitial site? Interstitial means it is within, but means at any place. Okay. At room temperature, we are considering an example of zinc. At room temperature, zinc oxide is white in color. So when you will see zinc oxide at room temperature, you will find that it is having white color. On heating, it turns yellow by losing electron. Now again, just now we studied about the colors. Uh, okay, just now we studied about how these molecule get colors. So the same way, here also it is told that on heating, what happens, this white zinc oxide, when it is being heated, it loses electron. When you heat anything, the electrons are lost. So here when they are losing electron, they become yellow in color. Now there is excess electron which gets deposited to the interstitial site. Now what happens, there is excess, like the number of electrons increase, and these electrons, there is nowhere to go. So what they do, they get deposited at any interstitial site. So here is a diagram. Zinc oxide, you are heating zinc oxide, it breaks down into zinc ion and oxygen atom. Okay, so leaving two electrons. Now where will these two electrons go? It will get deposited. See, here is the diagram, you can see. Okay, it is getting deposited at any of the interstitial position. So this was the next type. The further is metal deficiency defect. This is the second type, as I told you, mark it as a second type of defect. Okay, coming under non-stoichiometric defect. Non-stoichiometric defect is of two types: metal excess and metal deficiency. Now metal deficiency, many solids are difficult to prepare because they have less metal as compared to stoichiometric proportion. Okay, stoichiometric proportion, stoichiometry means what? The total number of atoms, sorry, the total number of reactants and products. Okay, now before preparing anything, scientists, what they do calculations that how many atoms or how much amount of reactant will be required to give how much amount of the product. Okay, before adding anything. So here what happens, that same way many solids are difficult. So when a scientist want to prepare a particular type of solid, they find it very difficult to prepare just because they have less metal as compared to stoichiometric proportion. Okay, means if they want to prepare something, they find out that there is less proportion, they won't be able to prepare it. So this type of defect is known as metal deficiency defect. Okay, and means, and why do they face problem? Just because they have less metal in it. So these type of defect where the metal is less, it is known as metal deficiency defect. Example is ferric oxide, FeO. Now here if the found composition of Fe, okay, it is 0.95 oxygen, but it may range from Fe 0.93 to 0.96. Okay, the actual, it is found out that it is 0.95, but it might range from 0.90 to 0.96. In FeO crystal, some Fe2 plus cations are missing, and the loss is covered by Fe3 plus ions. Now if you will see that here it is a diagram, it is a FeO crystal structure. Some Fe2 cations are missing. For example, Fe2 cations are missing. Okay, now this cations is covered by Fe3 plus ions. Means for example, there is no Fe2 plus ions, then what happens? Fe3 plus ions takes its place. So this type of deficiency is known as metal deficiency. Okay, so this was the example. Now starting with the next topic, this was all about the defect we studied about. I am just revising it again, that there were two type of defect. One was point defect and line defect, and line defect was further classified into stoichiometric defect, three types: stoichiometric defect, impurity defect, and non-stoichiometric defect. Then the stoichiometric defect has four types. One is vacancy defect and interstitial defect, and Frankel and Schottky defect are comes under the same type, but it is just the difference of ionic and non-ionic solids. Okay, then the second is impurity, and then non-stoichiometric defect is of two types: metal excess defect and metal deficiency defect. Metal excess defect is of further two types due to anionic vacancies and due to the presence of extra cations. Okay, coming to the new topic, which is electrical properties. Now here we are going to study about the electrical properties of solid. Till now we were studying about the defects they have, or the space they have, or the characteristic, or how much amount of packing can be done, or the 3D structure, 2D structure, and the lattices, everything. Now we are going to study about the electrical properties they possess. Okay, so there are three types of solids. One is which are conductors, insulators, and semiconductors. We are already very much familiar with these names, so we are going to study little bit in detail about what solid possess. Now, conductors means they conduct electricity, as simple as that, which we have studied in our school. Okay, so conductivity is ranging between 10 raised to 4 to 10 raised to 7 ohm per meter. So any conductivity which is ranging from 10 raised to 4 to 10 raised to 7 ohm per meter is a conductor. And metals, they have 10 raised to 7 ohm per meter range. Okay, so therefore they are good conductors. Now here you can see there are some example of metals. Many metals like silver, copper, gold, and aluminium are good thermal conductors. Okay, so this is the example of good conductors. Insulators, the second type is insulator. Insulator means what? They don't conduct electricity. Okay, now I will give you one example. Here there look here, there are some examples. Low conductivity is ranging between 10 raised to minus 20 to 10 raised to minus 10. Just now in the first column we studied that for being a good conductor you should have the range from 10 raised to 4 to 10 raised to 7, whereas insulators, the range is very much low, which is from 10 raised to minus 20 to 10 raised to minus 10, which means they couldn't conduct electricity. Okay, so here are the example. Now what do you mean by insulator? Materials that don't transfer heat very effectively. Wool, wood, and plastic are good thermal insulators. So you can see there are few examples. We know very well that if we want to, if there is electric shock somewhere, we are informed that we should wear plastic chappals, or we should hold wood in our hand so that we don't get the current. So it is just because all these things, they are insulators, means they don't conduct electricity, means if we are holding this, electricity won't pass through our body, or not only body, it won't pass through any other substance. So here diamond, oil, dry wood, glass, these are the examples of insulator. Now what is semiconductors? Here the conductivity is in the intermediate range from 10 raised to minus 6 to 10 raised to minus 4. Now here you can see 10 raised to 4 to 10 raised to 7, but it might be 10 raised to minus 6 to 10 raised to 4. Means semiconductors means they are having the range in between. They are neither insulators or neither conductors, they are in between. Semi means what? If they are the type in which if you will add the electrons which is needed for the flow of if you add any electrons which is needed for conducting electricity, these semiconductors, they will turn out to be conductors. Okay, so that's why it is known as semiconductors. Like, it is very much close to conductors, but they don't conduct electricity. So these are the few examples, and we are going to study about the example further. Now, conduction of electricity between metals and semiconductors. Okay, there are two types of we are going to study about two types, metals and semiconductors, regarding the conduction of electricity in solid. Why are we going to study about metals and semiconductors? Because metals in short means we are going to study about conductors and semiconductors. Okay, electricity is now in metals, electricity is conducted through movement of electrons, metallic conductors or ions, electrolytes. Means this is a basic thing which we studied during our school time. um, and I have told you before also that if electrons is moving from one place to another, then they will conduct electricity. And if there are electrons, means those type of conductors are known as metallic conductors. And if the electricity is conducted through ions, then they will be known as electrolytes. Okay. Further, they conduct electricity in solid as well as molten state. So metals, either if they are in solid state or molten state, they may be of any type, but they will conduct electricity. Okay, molten means melted. Conductivity depends upon the number of valence electrons available per atom. Now, on what factor is conductivity dependent? It is dependent upon the number of valence atoms, number of valence electrons, means how many electrons are left out, how many valence electrons are left out per atom. So that factor will decide the conductivity. Okay. Next point is atomic orbitals form molecular orbitals. Since they are close to each other, they form bands. Now these atomic orbitals and molecular orbitals, they are atom and molecule. Mean you will study about this. You might have studied about this in the chapter hybridization in 11th standard. You might have seen that we draw the molecular orbital. We know about the molecular orbital theory, in which we draw that diagram. Same way, there is a line of atom and there is a line of molecule. So when the gap between these two lines, atomic orbital and molecular orbital, is very close to each other, they form band. Okay, and if this band is partially filled or overlaps with a higher energy conduction band, then electron flow and metal conduct electricity. See, here is the example. This is partially filled band, half, and this is overlapping band, means this is the lower band and this is the upper band. And if they are very close, see, this is the line. Okay, they are very close, or even they are overlapping here. So if this is happening, means they will conduct electricity. Why this is so? Because the electrons will have a place to jump from one place to another, and if the electrons are jumping from one place to another or moving from one place to another, they'll conduct electricity. Now look here, there's a example of insulators, and here you can see that how much large gap they have in between them. Okay, between the two band. Okay, filled band and empty band. So if the gap is very large between them, then they won't conduct electricity, because if the electrons won't be able to jump. I don't know what the problem is happening. Sorry. Okay. Then look at this diagram here, semiconductors. Now here there is a gap, but the gap is very small. So if the gap is very small, then they will be semiconductors, because if you are doing something to fill this gap and the electrons are able to jump to the other gap, then they will conduct electricity. So they can become conductors. Now, but here we are studying that the gap between semiconductors is very low. Okay. Then electron, okay, if the gap between them is large, then electron cannot jump and they act as an insulator, just now as we studied. Coming to semiconductors, what are semiconductors? The gap between valence and conduction band is small. Correct the spelling here, it should be E. Okay. The gap between valence and conduction band is small. See, this is the valence band, the lower band is known as the valence band, and the upper band is known as the conduction band. Okay, when the gap between the valence band, this blue band, uh, blue band is known as the valence band, and this white one is known as conduction band. So the gap between them is small, then they are known as semiconductors. So some electrons jumps and conduct electricity. Okay, only some of the electrons can jump and they can conduct electricity. This is valence band and this is conduction band, and some electrons can jump. Then conductivity increases with rise in temperature, since some electrons are able to jump to conduction band. Okay, if uh, what is the main factor because of which the conductivity will increase? So if there is a just now, as I told you, that what exactly semiconductor is. Semiconductor means if you do something, they may become conductors. So that's what here it is written, that one thing you can do, what is it, that increase the temperature. If you will increase the temperature, what will happen, that by increasing the temperature, some electrons, they might jump to the conduction band. Okay, example here is silicon and germanium. They are known as intrinsic semiconductors. Okay, intrinsic means inside. Silicon and germanium are the common example, very much common example of semiconductors. You might have studied about this in physics also. But the conductivity is very low for the practical use. But if you're taking silicon and germanium in the raw state, and you will think that it will conduct electricity, it won't, because the conductivity is very low. So you will have to do something to it, and what we will be doing, we are going to study further. But here what it is written, that but the conductivity is very low for the practical use, so impurity is added to increase the conductivity. So what are we doing to increase the conductivity of these semiconductors, silicon and germanium? We will be adding impurity. And just now we studied that what impurity is. Impurity is means besides silicon or germanium, you will be having some other atoms in it, that is known as impurity. This is now this thing is known as doping, means you are purposely adding anything to increase the conductivity. It is known as doping. Okay, and there are two types of impurities depending upon the type of conductor, silicon or germanium. We are going to add two type of impurity, and what are the two types? One is electron rich impurity and the other is electron deficient impurity. So this is the electron rich impurity and this is the electron deficient impurity. Means from the title itself you can understand that electron rich means here there might be an extra electron, whereas here there might be less electron. Okay, silicon and germanium belongs to group 14 and have 4 valence electrons. So if you will see the valency of silicon and germanium, they both have how much? 4. Okay, because it belongs to group 14. It forms 4 covalent bond with its neighbor. Obviously its valency is 4, so it's going to form how much covalent bond? 4 covalent bonds. Doped with group 15 elements like phosphorus or arsenic, which contains 5 valence electrons. Now what are we doing to this? We are doping it with elements of group 15, means the other group, elements from the other group, group 15. We are doping the elements like phosphorus or arsenic. Okay, here the example, it is other example is given. So or like any, we are taking any element from group 15. So this is the other element, terbium. They then join the lattice sites and crystals of silicon or germanium. What will happen? They will join the sites. Now look here, this is the impurity, the center part is the impurity, and this is silicon. When we add the impurity, what happens? The electrons are joining to each other. 4 electrons are used in forming covalent bond, while the 5th electron remains delocalized. Okay, 4 electrons, they will form covalent bond, but what will happen with the 5th one? It will be delocalized, means it will remain outside. And let me tell you why there is a 5th electron, because they belong to group 15, means their valency is 5, and here 4 bonds are there, that means 1 electron will be extra. Okay, So 4 electrons are used in forming covalent bond while the fifth electron remains delocalized. This delocalized electron conducts electricity, and what do we need to conduct electricity? We need electrons, and here we get extra electron. Okay, as it is due to negative charge, that's why electron rich impurity. So why this thing is known as electron rich impurity means it is having extra charge, and that's why it is known as electron rich impurity. And this type of semiconductor is known as n type of semiconductor. Okay, so the conductor, like electron rich impurity conductor, is known as n type of semiconductor. They may ask you in the exam that describe about n type of semiconductor. So just remember, n type means negative, means they might have extra electron, means if you are doping it with the element of group 15, which is an impurity, an extra electron remains outside, which helps in the conduction of electricity, and that's what we want. Now, and the next type is electron deficient impurity. This is the diagram of electron deficient impurity. What happens here? Silicon or germanium are also doped with group 13 elements. Means here we were doping them with one group one above group, and here we are doping them with one below group. Like this is we are doping with 15, and here we are doping with 13. Means here one electron will be more, and here one electron will be less. Okay, so silicon and germanium are also doped with group 13 elements like boron, aluminium or gallium, which contains only 3 valence electron. The fourth valence electron is missing, hence an electron hole or vacancy is formed. So here the fourth valence electrons, as the valency is 4, we require 4 electrons, but here 1 electron is less. So what happens? A vacancy is created. Vacancy means empty space. If other electron comes to fill the position, then that place will have a hole. Now if suppose there is a hole here and the other electron is thinking, oh, there's a hole, then I should fill this hole, and it jumps to the other hole. But what will happen? There will be a hole here, hole at its original position. Same way, if this electron is thinking to jump here, then what will happen? A hole is created here. Again, if this electron is thinking to jump here, then the hole is created here. Means the hole will never get filled. There will always be a hole if the electron keeps on jumping. But what happens in the meantime the electron are jumping? Electricity is created, and that's what we want. So if other electron comes to fill the position, then that place will have a hole. It appears that electron holes are positively charged and are moving towards negatively charged particle. And if you will look it from the above, what it appears that the positively charged are moving towards a negatively charged plate. Okay, it appears from the above, and that's why it is known as p-type semiconductor. P means positive. So this was about two type of semiconductors. Now here from the diagram, look at the diagram here, sorry, look at the images here. N and p type combinations. Now N and p type, just now we studied about N and p. So there are combinations which are made nowadays to prepare various things, and here are the 3 example by which is prepared by the combination of this. First is diode, second is transistors, and third is solar cell. Okay, now what do you mean by diode? I think that everyone is familiar with the images, but they might not be knowing that what exactly it is known as. Okay, we see all these things in all the cables or wires around us, but we don't know what exactly it is called. So this is known as diode. It is combination of N and P type and is used as a rectifier. Okay, rectifier means used for correcting. So this is a combination of N and P type. Then transistors. How are transistors made? See, these are the transistors, and it is made by sandwiching one type. Sandwiching means keeping in between one type of semiconductor between two other type of semiconductor. Means made by sandwiching one type of means one type of semiconductor is placed between two other type of semiconductor. Here is the example. Again, correct the spelling. There shouldn't be E here. Cancel this E. For example, NPN or PNP. See, the P is sandwiched between two N and the N is sandwiched between two P. So these type of semiconductors are known as transistors. and it is used to amplify radio or audio signals. Okay, so we use this for audio signals or radio signals. The last type is solar cell. We are very familiar with solar cells nowadays. It is used in majority to save electricity. Okay, solar cell, it is a photodiode used for the conversion of light energy to electrical energy. Okay, so in many of the buildings there are solar cells for getting hot water. Okay, so this is the example of semiconductor. Proceeding, a large variety of solid state materials are prepared by combining group 13, 15 or 12 and 16 group elements in germanium and silicon. So the last point about the entire thing was that now for preparing any solid material, what do scientists do? They combine any group between 13 and 15 or 12 and 16 with germanium and silicon to prepare many other semiconductors. Okay, now the last part which we are going to study about this chapter is magnetic properties. We already studied about electrical properties. Now the last part is magnetic property. Okay, again here the origin lies in the electron. So electron is responsible for everything, and each electron behaves as a tiny magnet and is associated. Okay, now here what happens that every electron is a tiny magnet in itself. Magnetic moment originates from two types of motion. How does magnetic moment originate? It originates by two types. When the electrons are now here, when the electron is moving in the two way. See, for the just now we studied that we get color in a molecule because of electron. And what does electron do for giving a color? They get excited to a higher level, which leads to color. Okay. Then the second thing we studied was that electrons help in conduction of electricity. And what they do to conduct electricity? They move from one place to another to conduct electricity. Okay. And the lastly, magnetic properties. Now what they do to give magnetic properties or magnetism to the solids, they there is a motion which is responsible for it, and there are two types of motion. One is its orbital motion around the nucleus, means electrons are moving around the nucleus. This is one of the moment. And the second is its spin motion around its axis. Now spin means spinning. Okay, when you spin a ball. Okay, so you know what spinning is. So one, it is spinning like we have already studied in geography that how the earth revolves in itself, like that type. Okay, so that is spinning, and one is it is moving. Each electron has a permanent spin and magnetic moments attached with it. So every electron, they have their own spin and magnetic moments. Magnitude is measured in Bohr magnetum. What is the magnitude measured in Bohr magnetum? It is 9.27 into 10 raised to minus 24 atom per meter square. Okay. Now there are 5 types of magnetism. One is see, here is a diagram how the electron is moving, and here the spinning motion. So now the magnetism, there are 5 types of magnetism. One is paramagnetism, second is diamagnetism, third is ferromagnetism, fourth is antiferromagnetism, fifth is ferrimagnetism. Okay, so before this new syllabus was introduced, there were only 3 type of magnetism students used to study, and there were paramagnetism, di and ferro. So now in the new syllabus they have included about antiferro and ferrimagnetism. So you are going to study about these two type here. Okay, so now what do you mean by paramagnetism? Paramagnetism, they are weakly attracted. Sorry, correct the spelling here also, that it is attracted. They are weakly attracted by magnetic field. In this type of magnetism, they are weakly attracted. Okay, they are magnetized in the same direction. See, here is a diagram. Here is a diagram for the paramagnetism. They have the same direction. Okay, This is the directions and they have the same direction. They're magnetized in the same direction. They lose magnetism in the absence of magnetic field. So if you are removing the magnetic field, they will lose magnetism just because it is weakly magnet. It is due to one or more unpaired electron which are attracted by the magnetic field. So why does it happen? It is due to one or more unpaired electron, means if there is a more unpaired electron, so they get attracted, and that's why magnetism is caused. Or else if there is no extra electron, then there won't be magnetism. The example is oxygen, copper, Fe3 plus. Same way, diamagnetism. Diamagnetism is what? Substances are weakly repelled by the magnetic field. Here the substances are weakly repelled. Repelled means everyone knows about what repelling is. There's attraction and the opposite of attraction is repelling. Okay, so if you are bringing any magnetic field near this type of substance, they will get repelled. Example is water, NaCl, and this is benzene. Weakly magnetized in the magnetic field in the opposite direction, and they are weakly magnetized in the if they are kept in the opposite direction, then they will be magnetized weakly. All electrons are paired and number of unpaired electrons. Okay, here what happened, no, there are and no unpaired electrons, sorry, not number, it is no. In this all electrons are paired, while what we studied here, that one or more unpaired electrons are present, and here all the electrons are paired. So what happens, just because of this pairing cancels the magnetic moment and they lose their magnetic character. So for having magnetic character in it, there should be an unpaired electron, while here you can see that all the electrons are paired, which means that they lose the magnetic character very soon. See what I told you, that before there were only three types of magnetism, and what students used to study, that the ferromagnetism was the strongest, then paramagnetism was little weak than ferro, and diamagnetism was the weakest. Okay, so it is the same way. Further about ferromagnetism, see it is the example of diamagnetism. You can look at the diagram here, that how they are very weakly repelled. Okay, paramagnetic is attracted, and there are no unpaired electron. Every here all the electrons are paired, whereas here there is one unpaired electron. Okay, this is a diagram about diamagnetic and paramagnetic. Third type is ferromagnetism. The example of ferromagnetism is iron, cobalt, and nickel. It is attracted very strongly by the magnetic field. Just now, as I told you, that this is the strongest. It is attracted by magnetic field. It is permanently magnetized. Means even if you take any field near it or remove it, nothing will happen. It will still be magnetized. Metal ions are grouped together in a ferromagnetic substance called domains. Okay. Now the grouping is done in this type of magnetism, and it is known as domains. In an unmagnetized piece, the domains are randomly oriented and in same direction. If suppose that there is a piece which is unmagnetized, so here what will happen, they are randomly oriented and in same direction. Means oriented means orientation. So here the orientation is very random, but the direction is same. See, look at the example here. Okay, they have the same direction. Magnetic moments get cancelled. If placed in a magnetic field, domains get oriented in same direction, and the strong magnet is produced. Now if we are placing it in the magnetic field, what will happen, these domains, they will get oriented, means the orientation will also be in the same direction, and they will become a strong magnet. What we studied before, that if unmagnetized piece is kept, the domains are randomly oriented, but the direction is same, while if magnetic field is placed, both the domains and the direction will be same. The fourth type is antiferromagnetism. Okay, the example here is manganese oxide, MnO. They have domain same as that of ferromagnetic substance. Okay, just now we studied about the domains here, so it is having same as ferromagnetic substance. but domains are oppositely oriented and cancel each other's magnetic moment. But here what happens, they are oppositely oriented, while here we just studied that they are in the same direction, same way, but here they are opposite. Look at the diagram here, they are in the opposite direction. Okay, one is upper side, one is lower side. So this is the example. Then the last is, sorry, but domains are oppositely oriented and cancel each other's magnetic moment. So since they are oppositely oriented, they cancel each other. Last is ferrimagnetism. Magnetic moments of the domains in the substance are aligned in the parallel and anti-parallel directions in unequal numbers. Now here, this is the last type. They are aligned in parallel and anti-parallel direction. Okay, both way in the substance, but in unequal numbers, means the numbers are not fixed. Weakly attracted to magnetic field as compared to ferromagnetic substance. So still ferromagnetic substance are the strongest amongst all, and here it is weakly attracted to magnetic field compared to ferromagnetic. So here the comparison between ferro and ferri is done, and what is written, that ferro are still the strongest while ferri is little bit weaker than ferro. Okay, now here examples, magnetites and ferrites loses magnetism on heating and becomes paramagnetic substance. So once when you heat the substance of ferrimagnetism, what happens, they become paramagnetic substance. Paramagnetic substance means they will become the substance which have weak magnetism. Okay, so this is the diagram here. Here it is written ferromagnetic substance, antiferromagnetic substance. These are ferrimagnetic substance, means the directions are not fixed, and here this is paramagnetic substance. So that's the end of the chapter. So do write the notes, and also subscribe to my channel. I'll be uploading the next video about the second chapter of chemistry part 1, which is thermodynamics, very soon. Till then, bye.